Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So, welcome to the Bhagavad Gita Sarartha Varshani Tika of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and the Rasikaranjan commentary by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, which is a sub commentary to the Sarartha Varshani. So, we have been discussing the second section from verses 10 to 32. We saw the first section 1 to 9, and I have done twice the overview of it also. So I will not go into it again. In the second section, we saw how the yogi who has reached the Yoga Ruda stage, where the mind is controlled and the symptoms are mentioned, Jitatmana Prashantasya, how he, you know, being situated in trance in a secluded place with his body straight and mat chitta mat para, he meditates on the Lord. And by doing that, in the 15th verse, there is a realization of Brahman, mat samsthanam adhigacchati. He attains, the Brahman realization. Then further, I mentioned yesterday when we were discussing that how this yuktahara na what is this 6 point नात्याश्नस्तु योगोस्ति ना चैकांतम अनश्नत ना चाति स्वप्नशीलस्य जागृतो नैव and yuktahara viharasya. How mental regulation, even after Brahman realization, there is again mental regulation which these two verses speak, which is further required for further higher elevations, that is the Paramatma realization. So Krishna speaks these two verses, and then his chitta, is fixed in the self, and there is no desire at all, and he's being linked in yoga. He's, he linked, and it is compared to a deepa nivasastha, just like a lamp in a windless place. So his chitta is like that, and then these three verses speak about it, how the chitta is uparamate, and it is akin nirodha, niruddham yoga sevaya. And then how by the Paramatma's grace, he sees the Paramatma in the self, and he becomes tushyati. And this happiness is transcendental, buddhi graham atendriyam. And he is now realized tattvata, and he doesn't, move away from the tattva. He doesn't deviate. And he understands yam labhva chaka param labham manyate adhiga. There is nothing higher to be gained. Yasmin sito na dukkena gurunapi achi vichalete. And even the greatest misery like accident or disease, because he's fixed in samadhi, taking pleasure in the self, he's not bewildered. And he says, Tam Vidya Dukkha Samyoga Viyoga Yoga Samhitam. So this is called as yoga, which is attained when one becomes completely viyoga with this connection with this world. So, and then after explaining this lofty level, then Krishna goes into, what is the sadhana to practice that. So the sadhana, Krishna then starts speaking about it from 624 to uh, 24, 25, 26, 27 in one sense. 28, 29, when he attains the realization that was spoken. So we saw this also. Sa nishchaya yuktavya yoga nirvinna chetasa sankalpa prabhavans kamans tektvan sarvan asheshata. And with the mind, manasevindriya gramam viniyamya. He fully niyam, vishesh rupena niyam, samantata, completely. And the mind, being fickle can, go back to the sense objects. So what one should do? Shaner uparamay buddhya dhritigirite. Atsu samsavanam manakritva na kinchidapi chintayet. We should not think of anything else. And wherever the mind wanders, yato yato nischalati manas chanchalamasstiram tatas tato niyametad atman neva vasham nai. And then what will happen? Prashanta manasayenam yoginam sukham uttamam. Then he'll again experience the bliss of samadhi. Why? Upayati shanta rajasam. And then he attains Brahma Muta akalmasham, becomes free from all sins, attains Brahma Bhuta. And then Yunjaneva Sadatma. Like that, engaged, Yogi Vigata Kalmasha, he becomes free from all Kalmasha. Sukhena Brahma Samsparsham. Atyantam Sukham Ashnute. He experiences unlimited bliss. And now the symptoms of how his vision is, everything, transforms into vision, knowledge is not theoretical, it transforms into vision. And these two verses spoke about it. Sarva bhutastam atmanam, sarva bhutani chatmani, ikshate yoga yukatma, sarvatra samadarshana. The samadarshana, as I mentioned, it was mentioned in 5.18 also. So yesterday I did not show the Samadarshana. Darshana means direct sight or philosophical insight. Samadarshana can result from seeing soul or super soul or both. So in 518, both visions are latent, that is the soul and in 629, primarily vision of super soul. So because this is now, as I mentioned, the second section is realization of Paramatma. So and the third section is realization of Bhagwan. So the realization of Bhagwan will come very soon now, which we had not discussed yesterday, the verses. So we discussed up till there. Now, realization of Bhagwan is there. This is that famous verse. Yo mam pashyati sarvatra sarvam cha mai pashyati tasyaham na pranashyami sacha me na pranashyati. Now, carefully try to understand this verse. Krishna is saying, he who, yah, sees me, yo mam is, Krishna is pointing his finger to himself. Pashyati, pashyati means to see, you know. But he sees Krishna, how? Sarvatra. So what does this mean? He who sees me as Brahman everywhere, yo mam pashyati sarvatra. What does this mean? Think about it. Who will answer? Yes, Navneet Kalra Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji Danvat.
Hmm.
Is it that the person sees me as a super soul pervading in all?
Yes, it is actually he's seeing Bhagavan who as Paramatma is pervading in all living beings. So that is why this is Bhagavan realization. But but as Paramatma pervading in all living beings. So realization of Bhagavan is here actually because that term Mam has come. And Sarvam cha Mai Pashyati, and in all he sees me only, Mai, and sees everything in me. Sarvam cha Mai Pashyati. Tasya Aham never loses sight of me. Tasya Aham na pranashyami. Sacha me na pranashyati. So this pranashyami or pranashyati, where have you come across this term before? Where have you come across this term pranashyant or pranashyami? Pranashyanti at least is very, it's the same term being used in the Gita. It's a very famous verse also. Where you have come across? Anyone? Navneet Kalra Mataji, where you have come across?
I'll try Prabhuji, but there was some mention in the last chapter or this chapter only that who sees the yoga is same and sannyasa is same price.
No, Pashyati is there. I'm not speaking about Pashyati, I'm speaking about Pranashyanti.
Pranashanti, I don't remember. I don't recall.
It's very famous. It is there. Buddhi Nashat Pranashyati, that famous Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsan. You know?
Mm.
So there Pranashyati means fall down into material existence. And here, 630, falling away from, that means losing connection with Krishna. He doesn't lose connection with me, I don't lose connection. Here, you see the meaning is completely, it's the same term, but it is fall down into buddhi nashat pranashati. One falls into material existence. And the famous verse is 9.31. It will go in, Name bhakti, Name bhakta pranashati will come. My devotee will not fall away from devotion and Krishna. So you can see the same term, but the meaning is completely different in the different context. And that's why we cannot understand, even if one is a scholar in Sanskrit and in Vyakaran, the rules of grammar, but if he doesn't have devotion and he is not connected in his heart to Krishna, and is not coming in the Guru Shishya Parampara, he can never ever understand the deeper meanings of the verses. So it's not just Shabdartha, it is Bhavartha. Because you can see that same word is there, Pranashati, but here it means fall down from material existence. Here is, I am not lost to him, he is not lost to me. Means I am seeing him, he is seeing me. And our, connection with each other, doesn't get lost. There's no disconnection. But here in the 9.31, it is deeper. Name Bhakta Pranashati means my devotee will not fall away. Fall away from devotion also and from Krishna. So that's what, it has different meaning here. The result of this spiritualization is stated, spiritual realization is stated. I, the Brahman, never become invisible to that person. Na pranashyami. Since I am continually present before him, the yogi, sir, my worshipper is never lost to me. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, I indeed belong to those who see me everywhere and who see all living entities means. Because this devotee, in the previous verse it was mentioned, Sarva Bhutastamatmanam Sarva Bhutani Chatmani Ikshate, and he's Yoga Yukta Atma, Sarvatra Samadarshana. He's seeing like this, that in all living beings there is a Paramatma. So because of that, Krishna reciprocates. This is Krishna's reciprocation, that because you are seeing me in all living beings, I am seeing you. Ye yata mam prapade. This is a sign of love. So we have to see Bhagavad Gita from, the Prema Anjana also, and also from the Shastra Chakshu. Okay. So this is what Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying. When my devotee surpasses the stage, not strange, my goodness, I should have. Stage of Shantarati, neutral attachment. A special type of loving relationship arise in between us, is between us, is between us. A special type of relation arise in between us, it is, in which we both feel I am his, he is mine. So this is how, Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives more the bhava, the Shantarati. After this relationship developed, I never bestow upon him the complete destruction of my dry impersonal liberation. So as I was mentioning, the Ashtanga Yoga which Krishna is propagating here in the Bhagavad Gita is not a kind of Ashtanga Yoga which is there in the Patanjali Yoga Sutras. It is more of a devotional Ashtanga Yoga I was mentioning. So that's why there is, because Krishna, he is seeing Krishna, Krishna is seeing him. So that's why Bhaktivinoda Thakur saying is, I never bestow upon him the complete destruction of my dry impersonal liberations. So he doesn't attain dry impersonal liberation. He actually attains the Lord in the Vaikuntha. He can no longer become lost because he has become my servant and has attained the internal function of his self, Chitta Shakti. Is situated in his Swarupa. Now, further he says, Sarvabhutasitam Yomam Bhajat Ekatvamasita Sarvata Vartamanopi Sayogi Mai Vartate. Now, again, we have to carefully understand this verse. The yogi who worships me, Yomam Bhajate, as the one living being, Ekatvam Astita. Now, this, Bhajate ekatvam asta. Here, ekatvam, is not I and the Lord are one. You know, that's what, the impersonalist will interpret. No, that's not the meaning. Bhajate ekatvam. That I, the soul and super soul are one. No, this is not what one in interest, you know, that there is unity, in interest. So in that sense, it has been used. Who is the cause of all? Sarva bhuta stitam, exist in me, samai vartate, no matter what his manner of worship. Sarvata vartamanapi. So let's go into the, you know, translation. Sorry, the purport, and then we'll understand. The yogi who worships me as Paramatma situated everywhere. The yogi worships me as Paramatma situated. Sarva bhutastam, sarva bhutasitam yo mam. So you can see again Krishna, sarva bhuta stitam, sarva bhuta stitam, who is situated as as a Paramatma in all living beings. It is Bhagwan only, mam. It is me as Bhagwan who is in sarva bhuta stitham. That is Paramatma. It is Bhagwan as Paramatma who is situated in all living beings. So sarva bhuta sthitam yo mam. He who worships me as Paramatma situated everywhere, even before direct relation, is beyond the rules. So that's what is mentioning. Sarvatva vartamanopi. He's not bound by rules because he's on the transcendental platform. He who acknowledging that Paramatma alone exists, you know, since he is the cause of all, ekatam astita, worships me through hearing and chanting, resides in me, not in samsara. He resides in me, whether performing the acts indicated in scriptures or not. Sarvata vartamanopi. That means, he's on the transcendental platform, whether he acts by the rules of scriptures or doesn't act. It doesn't matter, you know. During the yogi stage of practice, it is recommended that he meditate on the four-handed form of Vishnu, Ishwar. So, Ishwar Paridhan, which even the Patanjali Yoga Sutra says. So, Prabhupada also in his purport mentions about the four-handed form of Vishnu. This meditation culminates in realization of my Sachidanand form of Sham Sundar in a state of uninterrupted trance. So, this is what Bhaktivinoda Thakur takes it on a higher level from the four-handed form to Sham Sundar, because ultimately the Gita commentary is of Vishnu Chakra Thakur is based on the Gaudiya Vaishnava perspective, where we are worshippers of Sham Sundar Krishna. There is no Sham Sundar in Dwarka or Mathura, it is only in in Vrindavan. One becomes free from the misconception of perceived duality in between me and Parvatma. So this is what Sarva Bhuta Sthitam Yomam Bhajatya Ekatvam. So what does Bhajat Ekatvam means also? Please try to understand. What does it mean? Who will answer? Let us see. What does it mean? One understanding I gave while I was discussing the verse, but there is another understanding which Bhaktivinoda Thakur is giving. What is that? What does that Bhajat Ekatvam means? Nandini Mataji, what it means?
Hare Krishna Guruji. Actually, Guruji, I didn't hear. Actually, I was multitasking.
Oh, you have to do Ekatvam Bhajan, one pointed bhajan. Otherwise, it will not work. Yes, Navneet Mataji, what is
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
uh,
I think, I don't know, I'll try, but what I feel is that he does not, their perceived duality that Paramatma, Bhagwan is one and the same thing.
yeah, you got it right. There is no duality between Bhagavan
Paramatma,
and Paramatma.
Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagwan is one and the
Bhagavan.
same
So this
thing.
is there, it's not Dvaya, it is Advaya.
Advaya.
Advaya Gyan. Vadanti tat tattvavidas tattvam yad jnanam advayam. Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavan. So he doesn't have that misconception. You know. So the misconception also can be that soul and super soul are one. You know. This also misconception. Generally, the yogis get trapped in this. You know, when they see, I am that Lord.
Tatvamasi. That is Tatvamasi, right?
Tattvamasi actually means, that there is a Tat Padarth and the Tvam Padarth, but uh, but identifying that, that Tat, I am that Tat, is Mayavad, it's very subtle. The yogis who worship me, who am, who am all pervading, perform bhakti to me. So this is in one sense bhakti by the process of hearing and chanting kirtan. This they will always dwell in me, even when performing prescribed duties in the stage of karma, in performing jnana in the period of deliberation, jnana, and in samadhi in the period of yoga. So they're always residing in me. That's what, sarvata vartamanopi, in all these three stages. Okay, now this is the last verse. आत्मौपेनेन सर्वत्र समं पश्यति यो अर्जुन सुखं वा यदि वा दुःखं स योगी परमो मत. According to my mata, he is the topmost yogi who I consider mata, that practicing yogi, sahayogi, who sees equally everything. Samam pashyati. Samam pashyati. This has come now many times. As equal to himself. Atma aupamenena. In all circumstances, sarvatra, whether in happiness or suffering, sukham va yadi va dukham, to be the topmost yogi. Sa parama. Okay, let's try to understand this. Moreover, it has been stated that even the yogi at the stage of sadhana should have equal vision everywhere. So, even at the stage of sadhana, one should have this kind of equal vision everywhere. This verse explains the most important type of equal vision. What is that most important type of equal vision? He says what is good for himself and what is bad for himself as equally applicable to all others. Now, this is what, if something is bad for me, then it's not that I desire, oh, that is, bad for others, let him have it. No, I will see that, no, how I treat myself, I treat also others. So he'll consider that bad for himself also, and he'll, out of compassion, tell him. He desires happiness for all others and does not desire suffering for anyone. That yogi I consider the best. Now, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, I am explaining how a yogi behaves. Please listen. Only he who has equal vision towards everyone is considered the topmost yogi. So this is the culmination of knowledge. That knowledge should transform into vision. The word samadrishti, equal vision, means that in his dealings with others, the yogi sees all living entities to be like him and consider the happiness and pain of other living entities as his own. Complete a paradigm shift in the consciousness. Very, very exalted level this is, you know. So only a self-realized person, when he comes to this point, then, para dukha dukhi, para sukha sukhi. Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his bhajan says, therefore, he is always the well-wisher of all living entities and he acts accordingly for the eternal benefit. This is called Samadarshana. Okay. So we saw the progressive realization of the absolute truth. In 27, 28, there was Brahman. 29, there was Paramatma. 30 and 31, there was Bhagwan. And 32 spoke about vision towards all living beings. So this is how this section ends. Okay. So now we are going to start with the next section. But before we start the next section, any questions, any clarifications you have, I can take up first. Any questions? Navneet Kalra Mataji, yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Uh, Desiring what we just discussed in the previous slide, is it Suhrit? That is the same thing.
Yes, but he acts as Surid uh, as a as a as a vehicle or carrier coming from Krishna, not from from his own perspective. There is a subtle difference again, which I'm bringing out. Sometimes we try to act that let me become the well-wisher of this person or devotee. That is subtly trying to take the position of God. But that genuine compassion which is coming um, from the transcendental platform, that kripa is coming from the Lord, and that is why on behalf of the Lord he acts like that. So that is genuine. That's why Prabhupada is to sign his letters, your ever well-wisher. Krishna is the well-wisher. He's the well-wisher of all living beings, Suridam Sarva Bhutanam. But Prabhupada is to write ever well-wisher, ever. Means not only this life, future lives also, Prabhupada will guide us, wherever we are, So that's very deep, And that's why you're acting 100% as a representative of the Lord like that. Otherwise, at a subtle level, you can act as God. I am the well-wisher. I am going to do benefit to him, and you know, uh, so like that, it can happen, and that's why maybe you preached to one devotee, and that devotee came in touch, and then he started practicing, and after a few years, he joins some other counselor or some other center, and he's inspired by some other teacher, and he starts going, then he will become upset, Arey, I brought you in Krishna consciousness, how can you do this? When you think, that means, you think that, you're still the controller. Wherever he's inspired, So like that. So there is a subtle difference. I hope it's clear, right?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Any other questions we have about this section which we discussed? Okay, so we will go now to the next section. Okay, dealing with the mind, the main obstacle in yoga, 33 to 37. The necessity of controlling the mind, 33 to 37 it is. Somehow there is some mistake. It's the same section, this only, dealing with the mind, the main obstacle. Okay. Now, after Arjuna has heard this, till the verse 32, Atmopayena sarvatra sukham va yadi va dukam. Hearing this, Arjuna speaks. Arjuna vacha yoyam yogastvaya prokta samena madhusudana etasyaham na pashyami chanchalavat stitim stiram. O Madhusudana, I do not see. Aham na pashyami. I here means, intellectually I cannot see that this yoga with equal vision. I am samena yoga. Because it is mentioned, na, samadarshana you should be with all living beings. That you have described, yaha tvaya prokta, can be lasting. Stitim stiram, because of the fickle mind. Etasya chanchalavat. So he speaks here about two things. That this yoga which we have told me is impractical for me because of the mind which is chanchalavat and stitim stiram, that it is not going to last for long. It will, because the mind is asthira, and it is chanchal also, fickle also. It is not steady and it is fickle. So let's see what Vishnu Thakur says. Seeing that it would be difficult to attain such equal vision, Arjuna speaks. I do not see the permanence of this yoga which has achieved equal vision. This yoga will not last forever. This state will last for 3 or 4 days. I can maintain this for just 3 or 4 days, Just 3-4 days. Why? Because the mind is unsteady. Chanchalavat. You spoke of seeing the happiness and distress of all living entities of the world as one's own happiness and distress. One can maintain such equal vision for friends or neutral persons, but it is not possible to maintain equal vision for enemies because Arjuna is right now standing on the battlefield and Kauravas are his enemies who wish to cause you harm for those who hate you or criticize you. So, how it is difficult, you can think, Samabuddhir Vishishyate, to maintain equal vision, especially one for enemies, and then those who wish to cause you harm, those who hate you or criticize you, to maintain that same equal vision. It's not easy. It is not possible for me to see as equal at all times. Sarvata Vartamanopi, it was mentioned, the happiness and distress of Yudhishthira and Duryodhana equally. Even if by intelligence you see equally the jiva, paramatma, pranas, senses, and bodily elements of oneself and one's enemies, that lasts only for 2 or 3 days because the fickle mind is stronger than the discriminating intellect. Because the mind is very fickle. One sees that the mind attached to material enjoyment overcomes the intellect. O Madhusudana Bhaktivinoda Thakur, it is possible to have equanimity towards everyone, whether friends or enemies, only for 2 to 3 days. I cannot understand how it is possible for a yogi to always be situated in equanimity at all times. Then further Krishna, Arjuna speaks about what he spoke in the last line. Chanchalavat Sthitim Stiram. Chanchalam hi mana Krishna pramati balavadridam tasyaham nigraham manne bhayoriva sudushkaram. It's because the mind, fickle, it will not be situated in that equal vision and it will act selfishly for enjoyment, attachment, right? Like the mind is fickle. Chanchalam hi mana Krishna. Agitating. Pramati. Strong. Balavat. And firm. Dridam. So here there are four things mentioned. No? And each of them Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is going to speak about. One is Chanchalam. It is Pramati. Balavat. And then Dridam. I think Ahamanne, it is more difficult to control than the wind. Vayuriva su dushkaram. Vayuriva su dushkaram. So that's how difficult it is. No? Just a second, just give me half a minute. It's more difficult to control the wind. Tasyam nigraham vayuriva suduskaram. In this verse, Arjuna speaks of the fickle mind. But Arjuna, it is possible to control the mind by discriminating intellect according to scriptures. So this is what Krishna speaks now. I did not do the coloring, but here I'll do this blue. In this, Arjuna is saying that, and then Krishna quotes from the Shruti, the scriptures speak, of, that the mind can be controlled. So he gives the quote from the Shruti. And then he gives a quote from the Smriti also. Okay. So let's see. But Arjuna, it is possible to control the mind by the discriminating intellect according to the scriptures. The Shruti says, Atmanam Ratinam Vidhi Sartha Shariram Ratam Evacha. The soul is the passenger. Atmanam Ratinam Vidhi. And the body is the chariot. Shariram Ratam Evacha. The Smriti says, Ayu Shariram Ratam Indriyani Ayan Abhishun Mana Indriyesham Vartamani Matra Dishanam Chasutam Satvam Brahad Banduram Ishashrishtam. The Gyanis say Ahu. Ahu means to say that the body is a chariot. Shariram Ratam. The senses are the horses. Indriyani Hayan. Haya means, horses. The mind, Mana, the master of the senses. Indriya Isham is the reins. Abhi Shun. And the object of the senses, Matra, Tanmatra, are the destinations, Vartamani. Intellect is the chariot driver, Dishanam Sutam, the Sarati. And consciousness, Sattvam, which spreads throughout the body, Brahat, made by the Lord. Isha system is the seat of the charioteer, Banduram. So this is from 5:17:41, which is also in the Katha Upanishads. Prabhupada quotes the Katha Upanishads sloka also, which is also similar. Let me see. Prabhupada in his commentary quotes the Katha Upanishads sloka. Yes, Katha Upanishads. Atmanam ratim vidhi shariram ratam evacha buddhim chu sartim vidhi mana pragraham evacha indriyani hayan ahur vishyams teshu gochara atmendriya manoyuktam bhukte ahur manishina. So this is from the Katha Upanishads. But Vishwanath Chakra Thakur is quoting from the Bhagavatam, which is very similar to the Katha Upanishads sloka. So Krishna answers saying that, Arjuna, it's possible because Shastra say. So now here Arjuna replies now, you know, Arjuna replies and says, what he says? He says that, but the mind very strongly agitates the intellect, pramathi, pramathi, no? Mata, mata is here not maths here, huh? Please remember, mata means, manthan karna, churning. So the mind strongly agitates the intellect. So, in the metamorphical language, to put this, you know, uh, just like a boat, you know, passenger is sitting in the boat and, he's moving and there is you know, the raft here, whatever it's called, the raft is there. And this boat is in the ocean and there are the waves. So the waves are compared to the mind. And the raft is compared to the intelligence, which is finer. So the waves are like the waves of emotions which come in the mind. Emotions, all lust, anger, greed, these are all emotions only. So the mind very strongly agitates the intellect, just like the waves in the ocean can, the raft is directing this boat, which is the human body, and the passenger is the soul, towards Krishna's lotus feet. But the waves can come and take the boat in another direction. Prakrishrupena mathi, pramathi. The mind is very strongly and agitates it. So Krishna says, how can that happen? Now Arjuna answers. Actually, this should be, when Krishna says how that can happen, this should be Arjuna's answer. Arjuna answers. How that can happen, Krishna says, Arjuna says, just as a strong disease does not recognize the medicine which is supposed to cure it, the strong mind, by its very nature, ignores the discriminating intellect. Balavat. So, Chanchala, Chanchalami Mana Krishna, Pramati. Pramati is answered, then Balavat. It is very strong. So, generally in Ayurveda, especially deep-rooted disease, especially like skin diseases like eczema or psoriasis, they're very deep-rooted disease. And when the disease manifests in the body, although the Ayurvedic doctor gives a very strong medicine, but the disease is so strong that it overpowers the efficacy of the medicine. Prabhupada also speaks about that in his purport. Because similarly, the mind is stronger than the intellect. So although the medicine is potent, but it overcomes, the mind, the disease body, cannot, you know, it overcomes the effect of the medicine or efficacy of the medicine. So that's how it is. So if it is for a disease which has happened to us in the body, but we are having this bhava disease of the mind to enjoy, and it is there from millions of lifetimes. So how difficult it is, how the mind is, it's so revolting, balavat. Moreover, the mind is very firm, like iron, which is impossible to pierce by the fine needle of intellect. Now, balavat dhrida, the, the mind is very dhrida, firm, and it is like iron. And just like it is impossible to pierce a fine needle in iron. So similarly, the mind, which is firm, it cannot overcome the discriminating. I consider it difficult to overcome the mind by Ashtanga Yoga. That's what he says. Now, how is it possible that you can pierce a fine needle in iron? Is it possible? And if it is possible, yes. When it is possible, you have to tell. Who will answer this? How do we pierce a fine needle into a iron? When it is possible to pierce a needle in iron? So how do you do? What is the solution? Govind Nandini Mataji, yes.
Prabhuji, is it when the iron is melted?
Yes. So you have to melt the iron. When the iron melts, and then you can pierce the needle. So that is the only way. And that melting of the iron is Trunadapi Sunichena. Very wonderful answer. So Prabhupada speaks about that in his purport. You know, you know, one cannot capture the blowing wind, and it is even more difficult to turbulent. The easiest way to control the mind, as suggested, is chanting Hare Krishna, the great deliverance, in all humility, Prabhupada says. In all humility. So this is melting the iron. The prescribed method is Savai Krishna. One must engage one's mind fully in Krishna. Only then there will remain no other engagement to agitate the mind. So this is what melting the iron. What? So of course here by Ashtanga Yoga it's not possible. It's mentioned, but by Bhakti Yoga it is possible. That it is like controlling the violent wind in the sky by stopping the breath with kumbhak. you know. So Arjuna is saying that, trying to control the mind is like trying to control a violent wind by just breathing and staying in kumbhak. So how is it possible like that? Okay. Now Lord Krishna answers this from 35 onwards. Shri Bhagavan Vacha Asamshayam Mahabhavo Mano Durnigraham Chalam Abhyasena tu Kaunteya Vairagena Chagriyate. The Lord said, O mighty armed Mahabhav, certainly Asamshayam, the mind is difficult to control and fickle. Mano Durnigram Chalam. So Krishna, just doesn't dismiss. Krishna is a perfect teacher. He's a perfect teacher. First of all, at this point in the Gita, some of the acharyas mention, Krishna, Arjuna is quite disturbed because of the turbulent mind which causes trouble in attaining perfection in yoga. So he's disturbed. So Krishna puts his hand on his Arjuna's shoulder and pats him, and he acknowledges what you say, Asamshaya Mahabhavu, Manodedam. But then he says, but it can be controlled tu grihate by repeated practice, abhyas, and by detachment. So later on, Krishna will speak in the Bhagavad Gita 7th chapter, first verses onwards, what is that abhyas? And that is Bhakti Yoga, by which there is natural detachment. When the mind is attached to Krishna, Maya Sakta Manapartha Yogam Yunjan Madashaya Asamshayam Samagram Mam Tata Gyasasi Tachno. So when the mind is attached to Krishna, then it is detached from matter. So that he will explain from the 7th chapter. But Krishna, Prabhupada in his purport gives that explanation right here only in his purport. If you read it, you will come to know. So in the Ashtanga Yoga practice, there is both have to be practiced, Abhyas as well as Vairagya. Abhyas is Abhyas of Ashtanga Yoga, and the Anga of Ashtanga Yoga is also to practice detachment. Pratyahar is, Anga. For us devotees, we do only Abhyas of Navvida Bhakti, chanting the holy names, recitation, hearing, remembering, like that. Accepting what Arjuna said, Krishna gives a conclusion. What you have said is certainly true. But though a disease may be very serious, by taking the right medicine, very important, according to the doctor's prescription, repeatedly, after a long time, the disease gets cured. See, one sannyasi was telling me, he was sharing with me that he had gone to a very old Vaidya who was actually a brahmachari. He had not got married and he was practicing brahmacharya. And that Vaidya was 90 years old. And the sannyasi went and then he showed and then he gave him some herbs. It was very difficult preparation. He had to boil them and then distill, make it half, and then drink the decoction. So like that. So he did for 3-4 months. And then he came back to the Vaidya. I told whatever you had prescribed me, I've done it and I don't see any change happening. Disease is the same. So the Vaidya was surprised. Oh, you followed my instructions and you followed everything. Now I'll give you certain herbs which will now start acting. But then what were these all herbs? These all herbs were just to test you whether you'll follow this prescription. And because you passed my test, now I'll give you the actual herbs to go to the root of your problem. That means he prepared the body first, by Purva Karma, and now I'll give you the herbs by which the medicine will act and remove the disease from the root. So today's world, people don't have patience. There is headache, they just can't tolerate it. They just need a, paracetamol. Fever, you have to just rest for 3 days because the body is asking for rest. And you just take some tablets and then continue. Actually, the fever gets suppressed and it goes deeper, penetrates, and tomorrow it leads to diseases. So we need to have a lot of patience and we need to take the right medicine according to the doctor's prescription. Repeatedly we have to do, and after a long time. So this is an ordinary disease also, we have to do this. And our spiritual disease is very, very deep-rooted. From many millions of years, we have turned our face away from Krishna, Paranmukh, And now suddenly, we have turned towards Krishna, Samukya. So it will take time. We have to take the medicine. So what is the prescription and what is the medicine for us? Who will tell us? What is the medicine and what is the prescription we have to follow? Who will answer this? Hmm? Nandini Mataji, what is the medicine? Hare Krishna. Are you there with us? Or you're in some other task now?
Krishna Prabhuji. So, actually, not very much there present, Prabhuji.
Oh,
Medicines, but through a disease, by taking the right medicine according to the doctor's prescription. So, for us, the prescription, doctor's prescription medicine is Harinam.
Medicine is Harinam. And what is the prescription?
The prescription is whatever Guru's orders.
There is some background noise from your place.
Yes, Ruchi.
This is the 4 regulative principles and the diet. The diet is Krishna Prasad. So when we follow this, then we will be slowly getting cured. Similarly, though the mind is difficult to control, it is possible to control it by repeated practice, abhyas, according to the direction of the Guru, by constant application of the process of meditation of the Supreme Lord, abhyas. So this is abhyas in Ashtanga Yoga. And by disassociation from the objects of enjoyment, vairagya. So Krishna will explain a higher process in the middle chapters. But here, because he's dealing with Ashtanga Yoga, he mentions this. But Prabhupada directly gives the bhakti process if you see in the purport. Patanjali Sutra says in his sutras, Abhyas Vairagyabhyam Tan Nirodha. Yoga Sutras 112. The mind is controlled by practice and detachment. Since you defeated many great warriors in battle, Mahabhavu, and even defeated Lord Shiva, can you not defeat the mind? If you are able to defeat the soldier called the mind by the weapon of the great process of yoga, then you can be called mighty armed. So the deeper meaning of mighty armed Mahabhava means one who can defeat the mind. You might defeat so many powerful personalities, but if you can't defeat the mind, then you're not really actually mighty armed. O Kaunteya, you should not fear, as you are the son of my aunt Kunti. It is proper that I help you. Krishna is saying. So if Krishna helps, and when you pray to Krishna, Krishna will help us. That's what here is a very rasika relationship Krishna is bringing out by saying Kaunteya. Okay, further. Asayamyatmana yogo dushprapya iti me mati vashatmana tu yatata shakyo vyaptum upayata. It is my opinion, me mati, that yoga is not possible. Yoga dushprapya, for one whose mind is without practice and detachment. This is very, very important for us to understand that if one doesn't practice the rules and regulations of bhakti and chant the Hare Krishna regularly, then yoga is not possible. This is even applicable for Ashtanga Yoga or Bhakti Yoga, for your kind information. But it is possible to attain avaptum shakya, for one who endeavors and controls the mind. Vasha atmanatu yatata, by the intense practice. So even in bhakti, you require intense practice. Tivrena bhakti yogena. So if even for Ashtanga Yoga, it is the same, and Bhakti Yoga also. The Lord cites his own conclusion, me mati. Yoga is difficult for a person whose mind is not controlled by practice and detachment. Asamyatam atmana. Yoga or samadhi characterized by stopping the mind can be attained after a long time by a person who makes effort with the mind controlled, Vasha Atmana, because of intense practice, Upayata. Bhaktivinoda Thakur. One who does not endeavor to control his mind by renunciation, vairag, and by constant practice, abhyas, can never become perfect in his previously mentioned system, of yoga. However, he endeavors to control the mind by adopting the proper means and definitely, oh, something is wrong here. Wait. However, he who endeavors to control the mind by adopting the proper means can definitely attain perfection in yoga. And definitely, can definitely. Because this was typewritten and there was no proofreading done. That's why there can be some mistake. When I say by proper means, I imply that he would try to concentrate his mind by performing Nishkam Karma Yoga, who practices meditating on me, which is a limb of this yoga system, simultaneously accepting with detachment the sense objects required for his maintenance, gradually attains perfection in yoga. So this is the proper means, he says. Now the destination of an unsuccessful yogi. That will come from text 37 to 46. So this is one of the last sections. This is very important. So we'll take it up a little later, tomorrow we'll take it up. But up till now, do you have any questions? Any questions, any clarifications? No? Okay, then we will stop here. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् Bhagavad Gita की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय. Hare Krishna.